name's Miles, Daniel Miles, and this is a retro dunking up on Her Majesty's Secret Service, or the one that doesn't star Sean Connery. This is the only film in which Australian George Lazenby portrays James Bond, and it's better than you'd think. Let's break it down. Blofeld has fled to the Swiss Alps. He's tracked by Bond, and Blofeld, when discovers that he's been cornered, issues an ultimatum to the world. Give him a full pardon and a title, or he'll kill everybody. Can James Bond save the world? Alright, so this was kind of a controversial film because Connery had had enough after You Only Live Twice. Everyone who's seen that film knows Connery had had enough, so he walked away. And then they held this massive competition, almost an X-Factor style competition, to find James Bond, and they picked an Australian who had very limited acting experience. Now this film is not as bad as its reputation suggests. The fight scenes though are really badly staged. Whilst the action itself looks pretty good, unfortunately the cameraman is zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out. Imagine if I did an entire review like this, or with the camera zooming in and zooming out, and you get an idea of what the fight scene's like. I can't see what's happening because I'm too busy trying to deal with the migraine. Now they've got Kojak in to play Blofeld. Unfortunately, assuming these films keep a continuity, Blofeld was apparently a lookout at Pearl Harbor, because he doesn't recognise James Bond when Bond's only disguise is a hat and a really badly dubbed accent. Now the film itself is actually a lot more grounded. After You Only Live Twice, the producers decided to bring it down, scale it down, and try and make it more realistic. And it does work. This film is also notable for being the film in which Louis Armstrong's absolutely sublime We Have All the Time in the World was released, and could technically be considered this film's theme song. Now the film does go slightly overboard in the first 20 minutes with references to Connery's Bond. Lazenby at one point breaks the fourth wall saying, "This never happened to the other fellow." James Bond is not the Doctor. We accept the changing of actors, but you don't need to make it so blatant. There's also a scene in which Lazenby, having resigned from the Secret Service, goes through a drawer and pulls out a prop from every previous Bond film, which then includes the music from the previous Bond films in a bid to hammer in this is still a James Bond film. And the film takes so long to establish itself as a James Bond film that it almost forgets to tell its own story. The action sequences, when they're there, and if you can see them, are pretty good. The plot itself, it's quite twisty and turny, but it's still a James Bond film. He's still the knight on the white horse riding in to save the day. Diana Rigg as Tracy, the Bond girl, is an absolutely sublime find. She actually resigned from the Avengers in order to go and do this. Now Diana Rigg as Tracy, the Bond girl, she's absolutely sublime. However, there are legendary rumours that they seriously did not get on set, which I'm not going to dignify any further. You can also spot a young Joanna Lumley as one of Blofeld's Angels of Death. At the end of the day, this was a new James Bond, and whilst he was only in it for one film, George Lazenby tries to bring something new to the role. Unfortunately, he's just not got the acting chops for it. He's got very little charisma with the Bond girl and makes very little screen presence. This is another James Bond film that is an if nothing else film. If nothing else is on, then you should really check this out, despite rumours of it being poor quality. This film is being retroactively looked at, and it's actually climbing up the rankings of a lot of people's favourite Bond films. I'm Daniel, this is a Donkey. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.